Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about sexual racism. Inevitably, when somebody talks about sexual racism, there are people out there who say, don't tell me who to like, which I totally get, but what I want to say to those people is, you have already been told who to like, and you are doing as you were told to do right now.
Excuse me, do you like Asian men? No. Thank you.
I've been thinking about making this video for a while now, but have been a bit hesitant because I know it can sound like complaining since I'm in the group on the receiving end of this kind of discrimination. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So sexual racism, what does it mean? There are a few definitions out there, but I think the best and most succinct one is this: discrimination between potential sexual or romantic partners on the basis of perceived racial identity. There is a sort of positive sexual racism, like how some people fetishize Asian women, like this.
Asian girls, they pretty much all have black hair, brown eyes, built the same. They're cute. And that's a feature. It's called standardization. If you ever should, let's say, marry an Asian girl, God forbid, if she should die, you get another one, they could wear the same clothes, same pretty eyes. You're in business. Standardization.
In its uglier forms, we see it like this.
So this guy says, to the tune of head, shoulders, knees and toes. I can't believe I'm about to... Dumb and blind and deaf and gay, blacks, plackies, gooks and nips, white only.
See,
imagine taking the time to compose that.
I don't even find that funny.
Read that.
No offense, but blacks, please block me.
Now, can you guess which group is the most excluded in the dating pool? That's right, Asian men. What I mean by this is that Asian men in the US are considered the least desirable group for dating. And pretty much every study that has been done on this topic has confirmed this. A 2007 speed dating study found that women said yes to an Asian man 50% less often, demonstrating a significant preference against Asian males. A 2008 dating study found that 93.4% of white women with a racial preference said they would never date an Asian or half Asian. And this is something that most Asian men experience, even Asian models like this guy.
I thought maybe because I was also an Asian model, it would be a little bit better because I've heard of online dating being horrible for Asian guys, but it was horrible. I mean, I literally remember days of just swiping and then watching your white friends like kill it on online dating. You can literally just write no Asians on it anyway. It was almost like going to modeling castings. I didn't even get in the front door because they discriminated before they even saw me.
On top of that, in the previous study I mentioned, it was found that even Asian women discriminate against Asian males. In fact, when we run regressions separately for each race, we find that even Asian women find white, black, and Hispanic men to be more attractive than Asian men.
And people are always like, you don't like Asian guys? I'm like, no, I like regular people. Because regular people have regular sized sausages. It's okay. There's an Asian guy over there like, hey. Sorry.
So maybe Asian men are just objectively bad looking, or there is a good reason for this, a historical reason, a racist reason. Before I get into the reasons, I want to share a little anecdote from my junior high days. I had a friend, a white girl, who casually said one day that she could never imagine dating an Asian guy. She wasn't trying to be mean, she just couldn't imagine it. And what I realized later on is that she couldn't imagine it because she didn't have the images in her head. She had never seen an Asian man in a lead romantic role.
Well, I prefer to date white man or African American. Since I was a little girl, I used to watch movies like Cinderella. All the leading men are white men, and I grew up with Barbie doll and Ken doll. So I kind of like had that model in my mind that white guys are cuter than Asian.
Now in that clip, we see that the woman is aware of how she was influenced, but she still can't help it. As little American boys and girls, we are bombarded with images like these. When you search for the word kissing, this is what Google Images comes up with. Pretty much everyone is white. There is one image of an Asian man, and he is being rejected. And these are the images of Asian men that we often see on screen. They are either super racist caricatures, or they are asexual or desexualized. Do you remember in the 90s there was that film with Aaliyah and Jet Li called Romeo Must Die? Apparently, the ending of the film was supposed to have Aaliyah kissing Jet Li, but it didn't test well, so they changed it to this.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Ouch. To me, that was way more awkward than a kiss would have been, but the director said that mainstream America, for the most part, gets uncomfortable with seeing an East Asian man portrayed in a sexual light. So the thought is that Asian men are less attractive and therefore not cast in lead romantic roles, but I think it's the opposite. I think they are not cast in lead romantic roles and therefore they become less attractive. And here's why I think that. There was a Japanese guy named Sessue Hayakawa who was an actor in the early 1900s, and he was considered one of Hollywood's first male sex symbols. Considering how Asian men are seen now, it may seem unbelievable, but check it out for yourself. And his quote-unquote most rabid fan base was white women in the 1920s. So what happened? Did American women just all of a sudden decide that Asian men aren't attractive anymore? No. From the 1860s, we have these state anti-interracial marriage laws that prohibited people of color from having sex or marrying white people. Then in 1875, you have the Page Act, which basically prevented Chinese women from entering into the US, including the wives of Chinese men. So now you have a situation where there are a bunch of Asian men who are not allowed by law to have relations with white women, and there are no Asian women there for them to partner up with either. And then in 1922, you have the Cable Act, which made it so that if a white or non-white US female citizen married a man who is an alien ineligible for citizenship, i.e. an Asian man, she would lose her own citizenship. And maybe most significant was the 1930 Production Code, which banned portrayals of interracial relationships in film. So there was a systematic emasculation and denial of Asian men from being able to partner up with American women. And the ways that Asian men have been portrayed since the 1930s is a legacy of the racism and the racist laws that were enacted to make Asian men feel like they don't belong or that they are less than white men. This kind of stuff bothered Sessue Hayakawa even back then, and you can see his frustration in this clip.
Did you sometimes get the girl?
No, very scarcely.
Very scarcely got the girl.
Yeah.
So not only is media representation important, it's important how minorities are represented in the media. I'm not one of these people that thinks you should never tell an offensive joke, because I do think that's nearly impossible. But knowing the history, when you hear emasculating jokes like these,
Little yellow people with tiny dongs.
The penises, while tiny, are extremely efficient.
You know why Asian guys have small dicks? Because they're women, they're not dudes. They're all women. All Asians are women.
it's not that they are offensive, they are damaging. They are damaging because Asian men still haven't recovered from being desexualized in the media since the 1930s. So these jokes just perpetuate the idea that Asian men are not attractive and they're not worthy of dating, and we see the results in the studies that I mentioned earlier. And the question arises, why do so many men, especially white men, feel the need to tell these old, cheap jokes? I think there's this racist idea that Asian women need to be saved by white men from these emotionless Asian men with small penises. You know, sexual racism may sound trivial, but it has real-world consequences. It negatively affects people's lives.
I felt awful about myself. There was a ton of self-loathing and self-hatred. That's when I felt like I didn't want to live. I know I didn't want to live. I didn't think I had anything to live for. I couldn't see myself getting out of this depression and anxiety.
And these portrayals are not just damaging to straight Asian men, it also affects gay Asian men as well.
Yeah, I thought the gay community, because you've been marginalized already, you'll be more accepting to all people.
but it wasn't like that. And then someone told me to go onto a dating app site. And I went on there and I searched. Every profile, one after the other, said muscular, masculine, straight acting, white guy, seeks similar, no femmes, no fats, no blacks, no Asians. Sorry, this is not my racism, it's just preference. Over and over again, I tallied them up. There was like thousands of them. And it just made me feel really, really unwanted and just like worthless. Just made me feel like I wasn't good enough at all. And that there was something wrong with me, something that I couldn't change, because obviously you can't change your skin color.
So is sexual racism really racism? According to a study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior, sexual racism is closely associated with generic racist attitudes, which challenges the idea of racial attraction as solely a matter of personal preference. There are probably many people out there who aren't racist who have a racial sexual preference, but their racial preference has been influenced by racism in society and the media. Here's a good example of how the media we consume influences our dating preferences.
Has K-pop influenced your dating preference, or has it?
It definitely has, yeah. I've got a little bit of yellow fever, I'll have to admit.
Have you dated an Asian guy before?
Yes.
Oh, so in some ways it kind of has.
Yes, definitely, probably.
Has K-pop influenced your dating preference?
Yes.
Has K-pop influenced your dating preference?
100%.
So you're into Asian guys?
Yes. Like before K-pop, I wasn't really into Asian guys, but now I'm like, I'll take an Asian guy over anyone else.
Okay.
Finally, knowing that you may have some control over your racial sexual preference based on the media you consume, if you want to be more open-minded about dating people of other races, it might be worth challenging yourself to watch more foreign media. I'll let you decide what that means. Sorry, one last thing. I do want people to know that I don't think that women owe Asian men or any man sex. I know that there are groups of men out there who think that they are owed sex because they have been wronged by society, and I don't condone that way of thinking at all. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. See ya.